Stop everything. Put down whatever you are doing. Lock the door. Turn up the volume. What I am about to tell you has not fully hit the mainstream news cycle yet, and by the time it does, the narrative will have already been scrubbed, sanitized, and spun by the 6 corporations that control your information diet. What happened 6 hours ago in Washington, D.C. was not a judicial ruling. It was a regime change event disguised as a court order. If you do not understand the mechanics of what just occurred, you are going to be a casualty of the chaos that is coming in the next 72 hours. The Supreme Court of the United States just detonated a tactical nuclear weapon in the center of the 2024 election. You saw the headline, Supreme Court dissolves Trump organization. It sounds big, it sounds historic, but that headline is a lie of omission. It is like saying the Titanic stopped moving. It misses the violence of the event. Every single justice, all 9 of them, unanimous, did not just fine Donald Trump. They did not just sanction him. They executed the corporate death penalty. They stripped the legal charters, ordered the liquidation of assets, and dissolved the entity known as the Trump Organization. But here is the part that you need to grasp, the part that is making the blood run cold in boardrooms from Manhattan to Silicon Valley to the City of London. This ruling isn't about Trump anymore. Trump is just the patient zero. He is the test case. This ruling is about whether the American experiment survives the week. I need you to listen to me very carefully. I have spent the last 11 hours doing nothing but reading this 63-page document. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. I have been on the phone with constitutional scholars in Geneva, financial analysts in Frankfurt, and deep state sources in D.C. who are currently shredding documents because they know what's coming. The mainstream media is treating this like a legal story. CNN is talking about asset valuations. Fox News is screaming about persecution. They are both missing the point. They are looking at the finger pointing at the moon, not the moon itself. I went deep into the text. Page 47, paragraph 12. I found 3 sentences buried in the middle of a procedural explanation that legal scholars are already whispering might be the most dangerous language ever written by an American court. This is the paragraph 12 that historians will be writing about in 50 years, if we are still allowed to write history books. The court wrote, any corporate entity that demonstrates persistent, systematic misrepresentation, where such fraud is not merely incidental, but embedded within its very organizational structure and operational DNA, forfeits its right to exist under state protection, regardless of the political identity or public prominence of its leadership. Such entities are subject to immediate dissolution as a remedial and preventive measure when lesser sanctions have proven ineffective to cure the systemic corruption. Read that again. Regardless of the political identity, embedded within its very organizational structure. Do you realize what they just did? They didn't write a ruling for Donald Trump. They wrote a hunting license. They created a legal weapon that can be pointed at anyone. Think about the implications. Systematic misrepresentation embedded in operational DNA. That describes half of the Fortune 500. That describes the pharmaceutical companies that hid opioid addiction data. That describes the tech giants that lie about user data privacy. That describes the defense contractors inflating budgets. The Supreme Court didn't just kill Trump's business. They handed the state a loaded gun and said, you can shoot anyone who operates like a mafia state. And here is why you need to subscribe to this channel right now, because I am going to tell you the part that makes this terrifying. This language has never appeared in American jurisprudence before. I checked. I ran it through legal databases going back to 1789. It is brand new. It is new law. And who signed it? This is the kicker. This is the detail that proves this was a coordinated hit, not a legal judgment. Clarence Thomas signed it. Samuel Alito signed it. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, the 3 justices Trump put on the bench himself, they signed it. There were no dissenting opinions. There were no concurring opinions trying to soften the blow, just silence. A terrifying, unanimous, stone-faced silence from the conservative legal movement. When a court is split 5-4, it means they are arguing about the law. When a court is 9-0 on a politically explosive issue involving the man who appointed a third of them, it means they are not arguing law anymore. They are executing a plan. They are circling the wagons to save the institution of the court itself by sacrificing the man who threatens to burn it down. But let's look at the timing, because in politics, there are no coincidences, only synchronized swimming. Jack Smith, the special counsel, filed a sealed motion exactly 48 hours before this ruling dropped. We didn't know what was in it then. Now we can guess. Prosecutors in Georgia have gone radio silent. The New York Attorney General just requested an emergency expedited hearing. 3 separate legal spears, all thrown at the exact same moment, all hitting the target while the Supreme Court holds the victim down. This is coordination. This is the institutional immune system of the United States government activating to purge a pathogen. And the markets? Oh, the markets knew. The markets always know. While you were watching the news this morning, Wall Street was already moving. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted 847 points in the first 2 hours. That's panic. That's the dumb money selling. But look at the smart money. Look at what the masters of the universe were doing while you were sleeping. Real estate investment trusts, REITs, with exposure to Trump properties collapsed by 18%. Vornado Realty Trust, SL Green, bleeding out. But that's expected. Here is what isn't expected. Here is the smoking gun. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, the man who moves markets by sneezing. Yesterday, at 2:37 p.m., almost 18 hours before this ruling was made public, Buffett released a cryptic 3-word statement: rules matter most. People thought he was just being a senile old man. He wasn't. He was signaling. I looked at the SEC filings. I looked at the transaction logs. Berkshire Hathaway liquidated $2.3 billion in commercial real estate holdings last month, specifically holdings in New York and Florida luxury real estate markets. He dumped them. He went to cash. He knew. Blackstone did the same thing. 3 weeks ago, they quietly offloaded $400 million in assets adjacent to Trump properties. How did they know? How did Warren Buffett know that the Supreme Court, a body that is supposed to be leak-proof, was about to drop the hammer? Because the oligarchy talks to itself. The people who actually run America, not the politicians, but the capital allocators, they decided Trump was bad for business. He brings too much instability. He threatens the rule of law, which is just a fancy way of saying the sanctity of contracts. If Trump can ignore contracts, if he can inflate assets, if he can break the rules of the game, then the game becomes worthless. And if the game becomes worthless, the billionaires lose their money. So they made a call. Rules matter most. That wasn't a philosophy. It was an order. Now look at the other side of the trade. This is where it gets truly dark. While real estate was crashing, do you know what went up? Do you know what the smart money bought while they were selling Trump? Defense contractors. Lockheed Martin up 3%, Northrop Grumman up 4%, and private prisons. Core Civic up 11%, the GEO Group up 13%. Why? Why would private prison stocks surge on the news that a former president's business is being dissolved? Because the market is pricing in civil unrest. The market is pricing in violence. The algorithms that run Wall Street have calculated that there is a high probability of mass arrests, riots, and domestic instability in the next 30 days. They are betting on chaos. They are betting that you, the people, are going to take to the streets, and they plan to profit from your incarceration. Legal services firms, the ones that defend white-collar criminals, also spiked. Why? Because every CEO in America just read paragraph 12 and realized they could be next. The market is betting on a purge, a massive legal war where the government uses this new precedent to go after other enemies. This is not just about Trump. This is a restructuring of power. Now let's talk about the political fallout, because this is where the Republican Party is currently disintegrating in real time. Publicly, they are screaming. You've seen the tweets. Senator Josh Hawley calling it judicial overreach. Marjorie Taylor Greene demanding we impeach the entire Supreme Court, which is ironic considering her party appointed most of them. They are performing the outrage dance. They have to. They are terrified of the MAGA base. But I have a source with direct access to the internal comms of the Senate Republican leadership. They shared screenshots with me. I cannot show them to you because it would burn the source, but I can read you the transcripts. 6 hours after the ruling, a senior strategist for Senate leadership texted, "This is catastrophic. We need an exit strategy by Friday, or we lose the entire 2024 map." The response from a Senate aide, "How do we distance without triggering a primary revolt? Every moderate seat is now in play." Do you hear that? They aren't asking, "Is this justice?" They aren't asking, "Is the court right?" They are asking, "How do we survive?" They are calculating. They know that paragraph 12 is a death sentence for Trump's candidacy. You cannot run for president claiming to be a billionaire business genius when the Supreme Court of the United States just ruled unanimously that your business is a fraud and must be dissolved. It destroys the core myth of the Trump persona. 3 Republican senators, I can't name them yet, but you can guess who the usual suspects are, were in a secret meeting with Democratic leadership last night, Tuesday, 9:15 p.m., 47 minutes. They weren't discussing saving Trump. They were discussing the post-Trump map. They were discussing how to manage the transition. They were discussing how to keep the government funded and the military stable if Trump calls for an uprising, because that is the next phase, and we are already seeing it. Trump is currently following a very specific, very dangerous playbook. I call it the dictator's endgame. Phase 1 was denial. It's a witch hunt. It's rigged. We saw that immediately. Phase 2 is delegitimization. He is attacking the justices by name. He is attacking the institution of the court. He posted 47 times in the last 18 hours. 17 of those posts attacked the specific justices he appointed. He is telling his followers that the Supreme Court is no longer a legitimate body. Phase 3 is mobilization. Last night at 11:42 p.m., he posted, "Patriots must stand ready. Our country is being stolen by corrupt judges. We cannot let this happen. Stand ready. Cannot let this happen." This is code. This is the same language we saw leading up to January 6th. He is priming the pump for direct action. He knows he cannot win in the courtroom anymore. Paragraph 12 closed that door. The 9-0 ruling locked it. So he is taking the fight to the only place he has left, the streets. And we are seeing the response. Encrypted chatter on far-right networks has spiked 300% in 48 hours. They are using terms like constitutional remedies and original jurisdiction. These are sovereign citizen buzzwords that basically mean we don't recognize your laws anymore. 6 known organizers from the January 6th events have been tracked traveling to Washington, D.C. in the last 24 hours. That is not a coincidence. The pieces are moving into place. And this brings us to the most terrifying part of this entire saga, the silence. Why did the conservative justices sign this? Why didn't Alito write a dissent? Why didn't Thomas argue for states' rights? I spoke to a former Supreme Court clerk yesterday, someone who knows how these people think. He told me, silence is a message. When a justice stays silent on a ruling this big, it means they are afraid. It means they do not want their name attached to any defense of the defendant. It means they looked at the evidence we haven't even seen yet, evidence that is likely in the sealed Jack Smith filings, and they realized that defending Trump was suicide. They realized that if they protected him this time, the rot would spread to the court itself. They cut off the limb to save the body. They sacrificed Trump to save their own legitimacy. And by doing so, they have set up a collision course that will play out over the next 72 hours. Here is the timeline. Here is what you need to watch for. Hours 0 to 24 right now. Trump's lawyers will file an emergency stay. It's a Hail Mary. They know it will fail. You don't ask the court to stay a ruling they just issued unanimously, but they have to file it to feed the narrative that they are fighting. When it is denied, and it will be denied within hours, Trump will claim he has exhausted all legal avenues. This is a crucial psychological step. He needs his followers to believe the system is completely broken, so they feel justified in breaking it themselves. Hours 24 to 48. The political pressure cooker explodes. Senate Republicans will be forced to choose. Do they support the Supreme Court and the rule of law, or do they support Trump? There is no middle ground anymore. You cannot say, I support the court, but I also support the guy the court just called a systematic fraud. The party will fracture. We will see resignations. We might see party switchers. We will see the beginning of the end of the GOP as we know it. Hours 48 to 72. This is the danger zone. This is when the markets react to the political fracture. This is when the street mobilizations begin. If Trump calls for people to surround the courthouses or to protect his properties from seizure, we will have a constitutional crisis that makes Watergate look like a parking ticket. Because think about the logistics. How do you dissolve the Trump organization? It's not just paper, it's buildings, it's golf courses, it's hotels. Who goes in and takes the keys? The U.S. Marshals, the NY sheriffs, and what happens if Trump's private security or his patriot supporters stand in the doorway and say no? What happens when a New York sheriff tries to padlock Trump Tower and is met by 1,000 Proud Boys? That is the scenario the defense contractors are betting on. That is why private prison stocks are up. They are betting on a clash, and paragraph 12 allows for it. Remember the language: immediate dissolution as a remedial and preventive measure. Immediate, not in a year, not after appeals, now. The state of New York now has the legal authority, mandated by the Supreme Court, to seize control of the assets immediately to prevent further fraud. They can appoint a receiver tomorrow. They can fire the executives tomorrow. They can lock the doors tomorrow. Trump knows this. That is why he is panicking. That is why he is calling for patriots to stand ready. He is cornered, and a cornered animal is the most dangerous thing in the world. But there is one more layer to this onion, one more thing that nobody's talking about because it is too disturbing for the mainstream mind to comprehend. This ruling applies to any entity, regardless of political identity. Do you think the Democrats are celebrating? Do you think the Clinton Foundation is popping champagne? Do you think the dark money networks that fund the left are cheering? No, they are terrified too. Because this weapon, once forged, can be used by anyone who controls the judiciary. If a future administration decides that Planned Parenthood engages in systematic misrepresentation, they can use paragraph 12 to dissolve it. If they decide a labor union is embedded with fraud, they can dissolve it. If they decide a media company is systematically misrepresenting the news, see where this goes? The Supreme Court didn't just kill Trump. They killed the concept of corporate immortality. They said that if you are corrupt enough, the state can unmake you. To a European observer, this looks like America finally catching up to the rest of the world. In Europe, we dissolve corrupt parties. We seize assets. But in America, in the land of corporations or people, this is a revolution. It is a technocratic coup against the excesses of the oligarchy. It is the deep state, the permanent establishment, the judges, the regulators, the old money like Buffett, deciding that the populist chaos has gone too far. They are reasserting control. They are saying, we run this country, not the mob, not the reality TV star, us, the people who write the rules. And they are willing to burn Trump to the ground to prove it. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave you? It leaves us on the edge of a cliff. The next few days will determine if we step back or fall off. If the Republican Party abandons Trump, if the base stays home, if the transition of his assets is orderly, then the system holds. The establishment wins. Trump is liquidated, literally and politically. But if the base listens to the dog whistles, if the encrypted chatter turns into bodies in the street, if the Republican senators decide they fear the mob more than they fear the court, then we are looking at something we haven't seen since 1861, a complete breakdown of federal authority. You need to watch the money. Watch Warren Buffett. If he starts buying again, it means the crisis is contained. If he keeps selling, God help us. Watch the silence. If the conservative justices stay quiet, the fix is in. If they start speaking out, it means the coalition is cracking. And watch the streets. Because paragraph 12 didn't just dissolve a company. It dissolved the illusion that American politics is a game. It is not a game. It is a power struggle for the control of the most powerful military and economic engine in human history. The mask is off. The gloves are off. The rule of law has just been weaponized in a way we have never seen. You are living through history. Don't blink. And for the love of God, don't just read the headlines. Read the ruling. Read paragraph 12. Because that paragraph is going to govern the rest of your life. If you found this analysis valuable, if you want the truth that the 6 corporations won't tell you, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that you want to know what is really happening. Share this video. Send it to your friends who are confused. Send it to your family members who are arguing about politics. They need to understand that the old arguments don't matter anymore. The board has been flipped. I will be monitoring the situation 24/7. I have sources in the courts, on Wall Street, and in the dark corners of the internet. As soon as that emergency stay is denied, as soon as the first asset is seized, as soon as the first senator breaks ranks, I will be here to tell you what it actually means. This is not over. This is just the opening shot. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, rules matter most, even if they have to burn the country down to enforce them. I'm signing off to check the latest filings. Do not look away. The next 72 hours are everything.